Hello and welcome to this video lecture on the Access 3 guided assignment. And so what you see on the screen here is the download screen for Access Guided. Make sure yours says for the Exploring Access 03 Grader H1. That's the database for the guided assignment, and here are the instructions. So you want to download those, save them to a directory where you can know where to find them when you need to submit them. I say directory, you can also call that a folder. So I've already downloaded mine and opened them up. And you can see we have this screen here that says enable content. I also want to move this so you can actually see the commands where everything's going to be at. So when you open a database, the first thing you probably need to do is click here, and that makes it so that it won't just be read only. Look at your objects over here, and then read the directions. So it tells you in the directions that this is a Northwind trader, an international gourmet distributor hired a new CEO. She wants your assistance in providing summaries. And so what we're going to do here today is show you how to do queries with this database. Now what's nice about this database, you can actually see how a database that tracks orders, customers, and employees is actually set up. And so what I typically tell people, or what I would do if I were going to come in here and write queries for this database, is look and see what the relationships are. How is this logically designed? And so to get to your relationships, click on Database Tools, and I'll move that up just a little bit more. So I clicked on this tab, and then you see relationships. When I click on that, we can see here are all of these tables over here to the side, and then what we have here is how they are linked up. The other thing I like to do is arrange these so that I see all of the fields that are in the tables. And so you'll notice here I have these sliders here where you can actually scroll up and down. So this is a scroll bar here. So I want to get rid of those by just moving my mouse over the end. When I get the double arrows, just drag that down so that everything goes away, and then I know that I'm seeing all the field names. I may need to even widen that up a little bit. Once you do that, then you might want to think about, okay, what's the logical order in which these things should look like? So an employee doesn't really order anything, but an employee, let's move this around just a little bit. So an employee is linked to the orders. So maybe who's fulfilling it and so on. So order details, each order has an order detail, and they're linked to the different products. The products are then linked to suppliers, and each product can have a category that it belongs to. And just so I don't like to see the lines cross. So you've got a customer can place many orders. The orders, an employee can fulfill many orders. So this is how they're all linked. So it just gives you a better overview of how that's done. And so now that if you know what the field names are, that can also help you start to do the queries or the views that you want to build for today. So look at this, do this on your own screen so that you know what's in each of the tables. Table names are written here, and then the fields, and you see what the primary keys are for each of those. And hopefully I'll move this over so you can see everything, because it's taking up a lot of room here. So I'll move it down. You can see where employees are and where suppliers are. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to the Home tab right now, and I can click here, right click here, and hit save, and then also close. Alright, so we've downloaded the file, we've looked at the relationships, we've looked at the tables here, we see what field names are in there. Step 2 says create a query using query design. So we go to the Create tab and we see here's query design. Okay, so the query design, what that's opening up for you is all the tables that we've created thus far. It also has a tab for queries, so you could actually build a query from another query. Remember, queries are views. So reading on, it says from the customers table include the fields company name, contact title, and phone in that order. All right, so we know that we're going to need the customer table. So we'll drag that or double click on it, and that gets over here into this pane. So that becomes part of that query. And from the orders table, include the fields order ID, order date, and shipping date in that order. So we're going to need the orders table as well. Run the query and then examine the record. Save the query as shipping efficiency. All right, so once we have the tables in the pane that we need and the relationships that get all the information from those tables linked together. So it may be that this wasn't it could happen that this wasn't a direct link here between customers and orders or whatever two tables that you're using. You may have to pull in another table that provides that link from one table to the last table that you need. In our case, we didn't need to do it. So once we're done, we can either hit close or hit X up here. So now we have these tables and we can expand them out if we need to, and we can continue on. So from the first table, we don't have to list things in the order that they appear here, but we do have to put them in the order that they want them in. So the first thing they wanted in this query was company name. So you can double click on that, or you can drag it and drop it down here into this area. So I'm going to move this down just a little bit so you can see everything that's there. Then it wants contact name. I'll double click that next. Then it wants contact title. And then it wanted phone. Then from the orders table, it wanted order ID. Then it wanted order date. And then it wanted shipping date. So if I pan across here, you can see I've got everything listed there in the order that they wanted. Then they wanted to run this query. I would say it's always a good idea to save the query before you run it. Now, query 1 is the default name. So they really don't want to use the default name. They wanted it to be called shipping, and you got to spell it exactly the way they want it here, or you get counted off. Notice that we don't have any query objects listed here yet. I'm going to hit OK. Notice it created the object and the name. So if I ever wanted to come back and run this again, all I got to do is double click right here, and that'll open this up, and then I can run it. So to run this query, that it means to execute it, I'll click right here, and we see the information that's listed. So it pulled all the data. Remember, this is a view now, and we can see all the data that's listed. Once we see it, we can leave it if we want. Okay, so notice that if I do a right click on this, I can get to something called SQL View. SQL View is the code using SQL query language that would be needed to execute the results that we just said. And if you were going to learn SQL, and I hope to get to this at the end of the semester, this is how it would be done. So, and this is one of the simplest forms of SQL that you would have. So notice the way this works is it's select, then the way Access does it, it uses the table name dot field name convention, and this table name is the qualifier. Now, a lot of times you can say from the table name here as, and then say C, and C becomes the alias for customer, and then it would be C.company name and C.contact name. But notice here we got company name, contact title, phone, just like we had dropped it in there in that order. Then we had orders table, and then the order ID field, order date field, and the ship date field. The next command that you would typically use is the from command, and the from, what goes after that is the tables that are used in the query. Here we're having to join those two tables. So we say the first table is customers. We use the command inner join, and then we say the second table orders, and what fields are they linked on, and the keyword on. So customer ID in customers, where they're the same in the order table customer ID. So that's how that SQL command works. Probably more than you wanted to know. And we can go back by clicking on a right click and go to data sheet and see the output of that again. All right, so I'm going to hit close on this. Do a right click, hit close. So we got one query down and several more to go. All right, the second step, it says add a calculated field name days to ship to calculate the number of days taken to fill each order. Hint, the expression will include order date and ship date fields. The results will not contain a negative number. Run the query and examine the results. Save the query. All right, so I really didn't need to close that. What I needed to do was add another calculated field to my output. So I'm going to do a right click here and go to design view. And what we're going to do, hopefully you can see this, our last exit here, or our last field position here is where we're going to put this. So a calculated view, field name called days to ship. So I'm going to put days to ship right here. So notice it said expression 1. So expression 1 is the default name of this new calculated field, and it shouldn't be days to ship. And so what I typically will do is, once you understand how these things are built, you would say the expression name is going to be days to ship, and then you're going to need a colon, and then you're going to build the expression. So the expression is a calculation. So you can say what's going to be older in terms of time. And you can just think about that. But it's going to be the ship date minus the order date. Okay. So notice I'm going to go right here and widen this up so you can see it. Hopefully that's showing on your screen. So this expression, and I need to spell it correctly here, capital T, days to ship is actually going to be whatever in this row of ship date field minus the order date field. And notice that Access put these in brackets. And the brackets indicate that it's going to be a field name. It shouldn't matter the spelling here as long as they're spelled the name, I should say uppercase or lowercase, for Access database. Other databases are case sensitive. So it's always a good idea to get in the habit of doing case sensitivity. So we got order date here, ship date. We've got that listed. Okay. Run the query and examine the results. Save the query. So always want to save before we run it. Okay. So I'm going to come back and I'm going to hit run. And if we scroll to the end, we can see we've got days to ship. So that becomes our expression. That's what we get to see at the top here. Now, if I'm running reports that have to look nice and neat, I probably would have put spaces in there or put an alias later on. We'll see how that works when we get further along. But notice all these numbers are positive. If you got negative numbers, it just means your expression was written backwards and you just need to switch the field names around. Okay? So that's how we do an expression. You could do as complicated calculation as you want. I've actually seen where you could put, the function net present value that you use in Access or Excel and actually build that in as a field expression here in your query. So I'm running a little long here on the first two. I want to break these up so they're a little bit manageable for you to work through. So I'm going to end this video and we're going to start a new video to finish out the guided access here.